sir. What's going on, Playmakers? Welcome to the Working the Wire podcast. It's Wednesday, November 4th, 2020. I am your host, Big Play Blake. You can follow me at Twitter, or on Twitter rather, at Big Play Blake. The gentleman to my left, your right, the advocate for avocado toast, the sultan of social distancing, just do a full 30. Big Play Beats, what's going on, brother?
I'm living it up, man. It's a crazy week.
Insane week, my friend.
Insane week. A lot of important stuff going on out there, but we decided that we would put our show out a day late with that and then just, give everybody a little breather. We're not going to get into that stuff, so we're going to give everybody a breather and talk some fantasy football.
Yeah, no, just to echo what Mike said, exactly that. Hope everybody exercised their right to vote yesterday. Like he said, we will not get into all of that. That's not what we are about. We are about helping you win your fantasy football matchup each and every week here on Working the Wire. As always, we will have our AskWTW hashtag brought up here later in the show. We'll also be around Sunday morning for any last-minute fantasy football questions or needs you may have. Michael, so it's been a crazy week, my friend. Let's jump right into it. Trade deadline, oddly enough, came and went quietly. No real moves, no big blockbuster deals. Everything was on the defensive side of the ball. So nothing too crazy as far as a fantasy impact's concerned. More of the theme this past, the last couple days has been the injuries in the NFL.
Again.
Michael, again, for the fifth week this year. I mean, out of 9 or 8. So it's been insane, my friend. So Mike, I'll start with you. A couple of big names are out there. We won't go through the list, but who, in your opinion, of that group that went out this week, has the biggest fantasy impact if they're out for the foreseeable future?
Oh, George Kittle for me. I have him in multiple leagues. Loved him this year. I call him Mr. Tight End Advocate. He's got he had National Tight End Day going big time. I love that little clip they showed with him. Look, he was the number 2 tight end in PPR leagues in points per game. He had already missed some, so points per game that he played at 16.1. Look, he's trying to tell people he's going to be back in a few weeks. Coach Shanahan confirmed it's an 8-week injury. He just kind of said it's an 8-week injury, and I don't think you replace that at the tight end at this point in the season. Jordan Reed did have a good game when he was out for the one game earlier, but Jordan Reed's not a guy you can really trust. Injuries are a problem for him as well. He is a guy that you can roster, but you have to watch because he's coming off of the IR as well. So he's a guy at this point, because it's not Tuesday night, Wednesday, you can, instead of wasting your waiver wire priority, pick him up, watch that guy. Another guy, I'm going to give you a rare cowboy alert here, Dalton Schultz. He's only rostered in 25%. He had 8 targets for 6 receptions and 53 yards last week. So I see the Cowboys trailing again, so he'll likely see some targets down the stretch. He's a guy you could pick up if you're desperate as well.
Yeah, no, I agree with everything you just said there. And Mike, for me, the guy that I guess jumped off the page outside of George Kittle and probably Jimmy Garoppolo is Kenny Golladay, the receiver for the Detroit Lions. He's already missed 2 weeks this season, missed the first 2 weeks with that hamstring injury he brought with him from camp. Hurt his hip this week against the Colts. So he's definitely not playing this Sunday. They're not sure exactly how much time he's going to miss. As we all know, hips and changing direction for receivers is one of those things where, it's kind of a week-to-week deal. And the bad part here is, Mike, I would tell the playmakers to pick up Marvin Jones, right, in any other normal week. But this is a little foreshadowing to our next story. The Lions just put Matt Stafford on the COVID-19 list, so that's going to leave Chase Daniel or David Blau to play for the Lions. Blau played a little bit for the Lions last year, so it's not like they're totally unfamiliar with the guy.
No, but he wasn't great. He had a couple decent weeks, but decent.
Right,
he's his high end.
He's not Matt Stafford. So, but Mike, we just mentioned COVID-19. It struck again this week, my friend. Like I said, Matt Stafford placed on the list along with 4 Niners ahead of their game with the Packers tomorrow night, and then a few Ravens as well. Mike, I'm going to ask it again, and I ask it every time we talk about COVID in the NFL. Is this the beginning of the end? Should we be concerned? What's there to pay attention to? Because it seems like every week the number just keeps getting bigger and more teams get added to this list.
Blake, I'm just going to try to keep being optimistic, but I'll be honest. I'm starting to feel like that guy in the meme where he's just sitting at the table and he's saying he's fine.
Everything's fine.
The kitchen is on fire.
It's on fire.
So I'm trying to stay optimistic. So that's what I think the playmaker should visualize of me right now if they're listening on the audio only podcast. But look, the NFL wastes way too much money for them to shut it down completely. So I just don't see it happening. I wouldn't be surprised if at some point we start to see less or no fans in the stands at some point, and then maybe a week or two off, or at the worst, the entire league shuts down for like a week or two. But I don't think the season's going to end. I think the end's going to be the Super Bowl.
I know there was a report this week about maybe shortening the season or having the season stop and just immediately go to a playoff, kind of like the NHL did. So I guess we'll see what happens, Mike. I'm not leaning one way or another as far as completing the season, but man, if this gets any worse, and we're seeing it in more and more states, we're seeing it in more and more locker rooms, more and more team facilities shutting down, so it's going to get worse before it gets better, and I just hope it doesn't get so bad to a point where the season's over with. So, but Mike, speaking of guys that aren't bad at all, let's talk a little bit about a couple rookie quarterbacks that are lighting it up. The race for Offensive Rookie of the Year is heating up between Chargers quarterback Justin Herbert and Bengals quarterback Joey Burrow. Mm-hmm. Mike, I'm going to ask you a two-part question here, and feel free to take one or both questions here. One, who would you want as the future of your franchise? And then two, if you're in a dynasty league, which one of these two guys would you rather have?
Oh, wow. So, future of my franchise in a dynasty league. So you're talking about actually owner in the NFL.
Like in real life, yeah.
Yep.
Like if the Bengals or the Chargers or who? Well, let's say Baker Mayfield retired tomorrow. Which one of these two guys would you rather have?
Oh, okay. So the way I'm looking at this is I'm going to give you QBA and QBB, and you give me a little, and then I'll answer, and we'll see what you can guess or whatever here. So QBA is averaging 23.6 fantasy points per game. On the season, they've had 221 completions on 330 attempts, 2,272 yards, 11 touchdowns and 5 INTs, and they added 130 rushing yards and 3 touchdowns. Then QBB has 29.5 fantasy points per game, 153 completions on 227 attempts, 1,820 yards, 15 touchdowns, only 5 INTs as well. And then this one has 142 rushing yards and 2 touchdowns. What's really interesting about both of these guys is they use their legs well.
Yeah.
They're getting in the end zone.
I would say use their legs effectively. They run when they need to, and they don't run haphazardly either.
No, Joe Burrow learned early, right? He was putting his body on the line, and he realized this is the NFL. I can't do this week in, week out, especially with how bad his offensive line is. For me, if I'm the owner of a franchise, I'm going Joe Burrow. I think he's doing – I don't want to say he's doing more with less, but I think he is making a very competitive team with a lot less in front of him. He is third-string offensive lineman. He is just really in a bad spot there. So I take him as my franchise. Wow, dynasty pick. Little spoiler for everybody. QBA was Burrow. QBB was Herbert. In 6 games, he has 29.5 fantasy points. I mean, that's pretty impressive. I think I'm going to go Herbert if I had to go long-term here. I'm sorry. Well, yeah, I'm going Herbert. I'm sticking with it.
Yeah, no, and I don't disagree with either of those picks. I think Joe Burrow is in a better situation in Cincinnati. He's got more young weapons. They're going to invest some money and probably some draft picks into that offensive line. Mm-hmm. You know, he's had more higher QBR games than Justin Herbert. So, with a solid running game to help open up that pass, I think that the Bengals provide the better situation for the quarterbacks. I think if you put either one of them in that situation in Cincy, you're going to get about the same production right now. As far as Herbert's situation out in L.A., they have Austin Eckler, they have Justin Jackson, who we'll talk a little bit later, but I feel that he has a more ready-to-go offense right now. So I actually agree with both your picks. I think if I'm going long-term, I'm probably going Joe Burrow, right? But if I'm going to take the here and now for the next 2 to 3 years in fantasy, while he still has guys like Keenan Allen and Hunter Henry and so on and so forth out there in LA, I'm going to take Justin Herbert just for the simple fact that he's got the stuff to put it together here and now in fantasy. So definitely agree with you there, my friend. So with that being said, we'll move on, Mike. we'll jump into the film room. As always, we'll do our usual unexpected and ugly picks this week. I'll start. Mike, my usual pick, and this one hurts my heart being an NFC West fan. Robert Woods from the LA Rams, 7 catches, 85 yards, and a touchdown. Added 2 rushes for 9 yards and a touchdown as well. Mike, he's emerging as a must-start wide receiver 1 in fantasy. Agree, disagree?
I agree. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I love this guy in Sean McVay's offense. Obviously, they have Cooper Kupp as well, so, I don't know who is higher in the fantasy hierarchy as far as the eye test is concerned. But, going into this year, I'd argue it was Cooper Kupp. But I think Robert Woods is emerging as the number 1 over him. So somebody I definitely, if you're looking to buy at receiver, I would definitely be looking his way. Mm-hmm. I think they have a lot of favorable matchups to end the year, too. Mike, my unexpected, and everybody's going to give me my homer pick again this week. DJ Dallas, the running back of the Seattle Seahawks. Don't think that this is going to be something that's sustained. Obviously, he's the 4th running back on the depth chart. But, in his first game as a starter, Mike, 18 carries, 41 yards and a touchdown, had 5 catches for 17 yards and a touchdown. So not too shabby against 49ers defense that is banged up, but not terrible, right? Yeah. So not to say that the 49ers would have done better otherwise, but, I think he had a great game as far as his first starting role. And if I'm Seattle, Mike, I'm taking a long, hard look at Chris Carson this offseason. Can the guy put together a full season? We don't know. He hasn't yet, so at least as a starter. So my ugly Mike, and I'm going to sound like a broken record, abandon ship on all Cowboys at this point.
Yeah.
It's Amari Cooper for the Cowboys. 1 catch for 5 yards. There's Sunday night against the Eagles. Why wasn't that game flexed, by the way, NFL? Come on.
Early in the season, that's why.
Yeah.
It's a rule. Yeah. Sorry.
Yeah, I know.
It should have been flexed no matter what.
Right. Abandon ship on all Cowboys, not named Ezekiel Elliott. So they're gonna have to run the ball to put together any semblance of an offense. But the Cowboys, Mike, CeeDee Lamb and Amari Cooper and even Michael Gallup to a certain extent in deeper leagues weren't having bad years. When Dak Prescott was in, and now you're on your 3rd string quarterback. Ben DiNucci is just not it. I mean, I think we could all agree there. So that leaves all Cowboys on the drawing room floor at this point, my friend. So, Mike, what'd you draw up for us this week?
I'm going to reference a an Ask WTW question that we got in the YouTube chat from Lee Shakur.
Okay.
He's going, is this a fair trade? We got Gurley, Deontay Johnson, and Jonathan Taylor for Jacobs and Justin Jackson. And who wins that trade? So I'm going to answer from the perspective of a redraft league. Right now, I'm taking Jacobs and Justin Jackson's without a doubt.
You know what? Let me pull up one stat because I don't want to give a haphazard stat here.
All right. The reason I say that is Jacobs is clearly the RB1 in Las Vegas, and then you look at Justin Jackson. He goes 7th last week against the 24th ranked. So the 24th worst matchup in Denver for running backs. He went 17 rushing attempts. 89 rushing yards, 5 targets, 3 receptions, 53 receiving yards. He's starting to distance himself. The issue you have to worry about is when Eckler comes back. But for me, I'd rather have him for another week or two. And Jacobs is the guy. Jonathan Taylor, on the other way, and is trending down. He's got the ankle injury right now. Deontay Johnson, I'm sorry, but Steelers receivers, they are that offense is just picking their poison each week. The defense is taking somebody away and they're going to whoever else. So I don't trust it enough to outweigh the benefit I'm getting from Jacobs and possibly just the short term for Jackson, but it could be for the rest of the year. And then Gurley, he's like an AP plus 2 or 3 points where he gets 10 to 15 carries. And if he gets in the end zone, you might have a 14-point game. But I'm not seeing the 20, 25, 30-point games. And that's where I think Jacobs eventually might have that with being the RB1 purely in Las Vegas.
Yeah, I mean, I don't disagree with any of that. Here's my thing, Mike. You're trading 2 starters and arguably a number 2 receiver for a starter, a top 10 back, and a guy that's going to be out of a job once Austin Eckler comes back. So, that's where my apprehension is with this question. Justin Jackson is going to be, relegated to backup duty once Eckler's back in the fold. So, and he tends to get some carries, vultured by Josh Kelly. So, to me, there's really no questioned number two in Oakland. Josh Jacobs is the guy, and I'm sorry, Jonathan Taylor and Todd Gurley are just as good on their best day as these other two guys. So you're basically giving Deontay Johnson away for free. Todd Gurley, we talked about it last week, is a top 10 running back right now.
Yeah,
he's a top 10 running back. On ESPN.com, he's rated 6th right now in total points. So, which is ahead of Josh Jacobs. So for him's a watch. I think Taylor's a better running back than Jackson. So, I mean, I think you're giving away Deontay Johnson for free if you're on the front side of that trade. So, but yeah, thanks for the question, Lee. Appreciate it, buddy. So, but Mike, you were starting to talk about a little bit about your ugly and all that for the week. What'd you have, bud?
All right, so my usual, we go Dalvin Cook. I mean, he's just balling out when he's healthy. This week goes 48.6, 30 for 163 yards on the ground, 3 rushing touchdowns, 2 receptions, 63 yards and a touchdown. If he's healthy, you've got to play him. He is just an absolute dime here.
Is he emerging as the best running back in the NFL, Mike?
Best running back in the NFL, or just are we talking fantasy wise, or
no? Just any way you want to spin it. Best fantasy, best overall.
He's top 5. I'll put him in top 5 because I struggle with that when Saquon Barkley's healthy, CMC is healthy, Alvin Kamara. He's just so electric. I have so much fun watching Kamara. He's up there, and then Aaron Jones has really been super consistent as well, and he's doing it out of the backfield, catching passes and running the ball. So I put him top 5, those guys, especially when I think of fantasy, just because those dual threats. If you're looking at just like a standard league, I'd put Derrick Henry in there instead of one of them. But
top 3, Michael.
You think he's top 3?
Yep. The only ones in front of him are CM. Only ones in front of him are CMs when healthy are McCaffrey and Kamara. So.
Okay. I mean, that's fair.
Right now. Now that could change, but right now there's only 2 better, one healthy. So, but I'm sorry. Go ahead. Finish your your thought, buddy.
No, I love that. That was a nice little sidebar. Ugly. We're gonna go. Oh, I'm sorry. I skipped actually. Unexpected. Corey Davis. 29.8 points, 8 receptions, 128 yards, and a touchdown for the Titans. A.J. Brown has been their big play guy. They've been going to him, but this is a game where it was unexpected because they fell behind. They didn't control the game. They didn't control time of possession really, like they normally like to do. So this was, to me, the second wide receiver in Tennessee to have such a big day. It was nice to see as a fan or as like just an owner to have possibly another player that you can, plug in and play and stream. I don't think it's going to happen every week though. I do like him, though. I like him more than I have in the past few years. It seems like he's starting to put it together. And then for my ugly, I went and found a guy named Marquise Brown. Now, he didn't have the worst week ever, but he had 2 targets, 1 reception, 3 receiving yards for a touchdown against Pittsburgh. The touchdown saved him in most leagues for 7.3 points. But then
one really bad tweet.
In one really bad tweet. There you go. That, to me, is the issue. Now you're going to now people are going to be questioning, the chemistry there. It could play it could play for him, but the ugly part is that it's football's a team game, and that team, they run the ball well. They spread people out. They take what teams give them a little bit. That's a team that I just wouldn't want to screw up the core and everything, but I just didn't. He's my ugly.
I got you. And I see somebody in the chat questioning Saquon Barkley in my top 3. Here's the difference: offensive lines. So, because the Giants' offensive line, Mike, you and I could go start for. So, Michael, we're going to talk a little bit more about some starters here. So let's get into our fantasy locks for this week, coming up week 9. Current standings, I have 4. I've hit on 4. You've hit on 3.25 because we're getting into the Dewey Decimal System with your picks, evidently.
Mike, I didn't add my points for this week. If you give me any, I'm going to let you call it this week.
Okay, well, my pick last week, Mike, laid a big fat goose egg. Boston Scott, 70 yards, 2 catches. You only had 4.5 points on standard ESPN PPR league, so not a great week really for anybody in that Sunday night game. So
terrible.
But this week, Mike, I'm going to go with a wide receiver. I'm going to go with Jerry Jeudy from the Denver Broncos. Tim Patrick's banged up a little bit, so if he does play this week, he is probably going to be on a pitch count, some limited duty. Mike, the Falcons, who the Broncos are playing this weekend, giving up the most receiving touchdowns in the league with 20. So you have to believe that some of these Broncos receivers, pass catchers, are going to get into the end zone this weekend. The Falcons are a shell of themselves on defense. And, Mike, I really think him and Drew Lock are building rapport. Drew Lock is starting to trust this guy. He had 10 targets last week. So, he's been putting together a nice little rookie campaign. Nothing groundbreaking, nothing to write home about, but a solid, beginner rookie campaign. And I think that this is a connection. I really like all of these Broncos wide receivers. If Drew Lock can take that next step developmentally, I think that these Broncos receivers are going to be some sought-after pieces in fantasy football. But go ahead, Mike. Let's hear about your pick from last week. I want to hear your argument to why you should get a point this week.
Look, it was a great matchup for Derek Carr last week, and then 2020 freaking happened. Look, the weather occurrence in Cleveland.
Wait a minute. We're going to blame this on 2020?
Oh, I'm throwing it in there. I'm throwing it all in there. I'm trying to
no.
I'm making the argument. You could be the judge here. I don't care.
Okay.
2020 weather, that was horrible. What was it, like grapple or whatever the hell they kept saying?
That was an ugly weather day in Cleveland. It rained. It had like 3 different seasons here, it seemed like, in an hour.
Oh, yeah, and you could tell both offenses were just like, hey, let's just control the ball and hope to win this game. Like, let's hopefully pull it out late. The Browns only had 6 possessions, and Derek Carr still scores 12.58 points. So for me, I'm not giving myself a full 1. I'm just asking for a half point here, Blake.
So he had 12 and a half points from a quarterback that's ranked in the top 10.
You giving me a buzzer? Is this?
I'm giving you a buzzer. Neither of us get a point this week.
That's fair. I'll keep it.
Yep.
I'll take it. I had to argue it though. All right, then this week, all right, we'll switch.
This is a revenge pick, I feel like.
It is a revenge pick because this guy's going up against the Oakland defense, who is giving up the most rushing touchdowns in the league at 12 this season. Justin Jackson for the Chargers. He is starting to separate himself between those backups. Josh Kelly's not getting as many touches. Pope got involved. I really think that this is a good matchup for him, and I think they're just going to pound the rock again. I think you're going to see 15 to 20 touches this week again. They let him rest today this week. I think he's going to be fine. So, Justin Jackson, running back, Los Angeles Chargers. That's my lock.
All right, Justin Jackson it is. And I like that pick, Mike. I think the Raiders' rush defense is god-awful. So that and your Browns fandom was showing. So.
Oh, yeah, I forgot that. I'm a little upset because they beat the Raiders beat my Browns, but
I got you, man. That's okay. Browns, I think, will be fine. So, Mike, I'm gonna recall. Speaking of that, we'll dive into Wirefire here in a second. But did you see what I did on Sunday with that tweet about Baker Mayfield and Browns Twitter? Did you see what I did?
Oh my gosh, yeah, your sarcasm even got me. I was like, what the hell is this guy talking about?
So Mike, I'm playing chess while the rest of Twitter's playing checkers, my friend. So
I was eating the checker, apparently.
We talked about this last week when Odell Beckham Jr. went down after last week. And we had people in the chat, I think, during the show. And then we had people messaging me, sending me DMs, and obviously reaching out, talking about how Baker Mayfield was so much better off without Odell Beckham Jr. And I sent out that tweet, and I wish we had it to put up on the screen, basically just asking people, are you still on the Baker hype train? Knowing full and well that Browns fans would just come to Baker's rescue and blame it on the who, Mike?
Blame
the wide receivers. Wide receivers, my friend. Because there were a ton of drops on Sunday. I'm not picking up any Browns receivers right now, Mike. I picked up Higgins this week. Might be dropping him already because what I saw on Sunday was abysmal. But I sent out that tweet, got a ton of heat on Twitter for that tweet. But it was all to help you Browns fans understand that team is not better off, and Baker Mayfield is not better off without Odell Beckham Jr. So.
Oh no.
So the tweet was somebody called it irresponsible, and I don't disagree. But sometimes us Northeast Ohioans can be a little hard-headed, and the only way to get through to everybody is the nuclear option. So
yeah, it worked. I took the bait. Many others did as well. We got a question. Stick with Lockett over Metcalf. This is gonna sound funny, but I'm thinking play them both if you can. You can't risk letting one of those guys go off on your bench, in my opinion. What do you think, Blake?
Be perfectly honest with you, they're if you look at ESPN.com, they're the 1 and 2 ranked wide receivers in total points right now. They're
Yep.
going to be the first two to probably cross into that 100-point threshold for the year. So, yeah, I can't disagree. This week, they got a little bit tougher matchup. I think the Bills present a little tougher matchup for the Seahawks.
Yeah.
It is on the road in Buffalo. I don't know what the weather's supposed to be like, but it is on the road. So, yeah, I mean, God, if you're sticking me in a corner and putting a you know what to my head, then I'd probably go DK Metcalf. I think he has the higher ceiling. The floors
15
are about the
targets
same.
last week.
Yeah, the floors are about the same. Ceiling probably slightly higher with Metcalf, just because I think he draws the matchups a little better. But that may all change. He keeps having big games. That could all change. So yeah, if you have the option to start both, why not? So
Yeah.
But Mike, we talked about that nuclear option. Speaking of things that are on fire, let's jump into wire fire, my friend. A couple notable bye weeks this week. Carson Wentz, Jared Goff, all of the Eagles running backs, so Miles Sanders, Boston Scott, Kareem Hunt, the rest of the Browns, Cooper Kupp, Robert Woods, all those Bengals running backs, and Tyler Boyd will be off this week, Mike, on bye week. So let's jump right in. I'll start. My running back pickup for the week, Mike, I'm going to go Damian Harris from the New England Patriots. He's only owned in about 49% of ESPN.com leagues right now. And if you look, the Patriots are reverting back to that run-first offense. I think they got punched in the mouth the last couple of weeks, and I think it really got under Bill Belichick's skin. So they're going to go back to that run-first, play defense attitude. He had 16 carries last week, 102 yards, and a touchdown against that top five Bills defense. And, Mike, they're playing the Jets this week, my friend, giving up the 8th most fantasy points per game to opposing running backs. So, in my opinion, Damian Harris not only is a pickup this week, but he's a start this week. He was nearly my lock for this week. So, almost pulled double duty with Damian Harris. Okay. I'll move on to my wide receiver, and this one's probably a little less obvious, or a little more obvious, but Curtis Samuel, the wide receiver for the Carolina Panthers, only owned in about 43.5% of ESPN.com leagues, believe it or not.
That is surprising.
I was really surprised when I was looking this up. Yeah, so 4 catches on 5 targets for those 31 yards and a touchdown on Sunday. Had those 3 carries for an additional 23 and a touchdown. Mike, they get him involved in this running game, and as long as Christian McCaffrey's still on the shelf, they're going to continue to get creative with Curtis Samuel. I really like this Panthers offense. They are lacking up front a little bit, so there is some apprehension as far as how far this offense could go. But I think with that top-end burner speed and the schedule they have coming up after the next 2 weeks, that's the one caveat I want to give to this pickup. I'm telling you to pick him up now because you got to strike while the iron's hot, right? The next 2 weeks, I probably have him sitting down. He's going to play the Chiefs and the Bucks, who are 2 of the top 5 passing defenses in the league right now. But after that, Mike, he plays Detroit, Minnesota, Denver, and then a couple weeks later, New Orleans, who all rank in the bottom half of the league in terms of pass defense. So, this is a guy you pick up, and you love to use the word stash, right? This is a guy I'm picking up and stashing. I'm playing him if I have an injury that comes up. I'm playing him if I have a bye week and maybe my backup plan's not panning out, the original backup plan for that receiver. He's a Buckeye, so there's that.
Oh, yeah. With his top-end speed and then the fact that they're using creative ways to give him the ball, you're going to see those little passes that are literally handoffs, essentially. That's a point in PPR leagues. I love this pick, Blake. I really do.
Yep.
Another guy I really like this week is Nyheim Hines. He's only owned in 33% of leagues. The Colts are going up against the Ravens. I think this is an obvious game where it's either going to be a battle. I think the Ravens are really going to be revved up after their week 8 loss to the Steelers. And I love his role in the passing game. I think he's going to really lead to some solid fantasy points for team managers out there. So I'd pick him up. And then I'm also concerned about the fact that Taylor's out. So this gives him a little bit more of that target. Or he's not out. I'm not saying he's out. He's banged up. Sorry. That's going to give him a little bit more of the couple more touches probably.
Do you feel like Nyheim Hines is a guy that I've picked up and dropped I think 3 times this year, just based on matchups.
The last 3 years I've done that though. He's he's such a good pass catching back that he serves his role, right? Like you don't want to roster him all the time. You want these guys who might blow up and go off, but when you need to stream somebody, he's not a bad option. He could go off for you in the right game flow, right?
If you need a streaming start and you're really struggling, I agree. I think he's a guy that you definitely keep your eye on. The problem I have with Nyheim Hines is the ceiling's high, right? but the floor can be so low. They tend to just forget about him sometimes in that offense, and it tends to, if you catch it on one of those weeks where they leave him behind, like Macaulay Culkin. I mean, he's completely forgotten in that
Good
Colts
reference.
offense. I had to get one Home Alone reference in because everybody thinks I hate Christmas. So,
you
which,
came
by the
out
way,
firing this week.
we're in my part of the year, my friend. Don't you dare put a Christmas tree up till Black Friday.
I'm with you, man. I can't. I like Thanksgiving, so I'm cool to wait. Yeah.
It's the lineman's holiday.
I've never heard it called that, but that's a good one.
Fat man holiday, buddy.
Oh yeah, just eat turkey and fall asleep.
That's right. Watch a little football. But go ahead, Mike. Wide receiver.
Wide receiver is one this one, even though there's a quarterback room that is struggling, this guy seems to be doing all right, and he's such a low percentage that you're going to be able to get him. So I really like this as our wire fire pick. Darnell Mooney, 8% owned wide receiver for the Bears, had 6 targets last week, 5 catches, 69 yards, and he had a touchdown against the 11th ranked Saints pass defense. So look, he gets the Titans. It's a great matchup, right? They're the second best matchup for a wide receiver, and then he follows it up next week with the Vikings. 3rd best matchup for wide receivers, and they get the Vikings again in a few weeks. So this is a guy that not only do you stash, but I think you can play, especially if you're struggling like me, who I'm dealing with injuries, COVID everywhere. All of my leagues, I have just my managerial skills are being pressed. I'm just trying to find people I can put in my lineup in some leagues, and this is a guy that I think you can. I think he's not just going to be serviceable, and what I like is he is the deep threat too. He could have a game where he only has 3 targets, but if he catches 2 of them for 80 yards, you're okay. And if one's a touchdown, you're in a really good place. So they're using his speed to take the top off. So I'm a big fan of those air yards he's getting.
Yeah, no, I agree, Mike. The thing that scares me about Bears wide receivers is who's throwing them the ball every week.
Yeah, so there's no doubt the quarterback play is shaky at best.
Let's talk about that for a second, just before we wrap up. The Bears, what do you do if you're the Bears after the season? Do you try to trade up? Do you try to go after a free agent? Do you try to make a trade for like a Jameis Winston? They didn't do anything at the deadline. What do you try to do if you're the Bears?
I don't know. This is a hard one. They really put themselves in a corner with. They paid Nick Foles a bunch of money. Right. Is Trubisky a free agent this year? This is his 5th-year option, right? I
believe so, yes.
I believe it is.
Guess he was the same class as Myles Garrett, was he not?
I think so, yeah. I'm on it right now. 4-year. Yes, so in 2020, yeah. So pretty much next year they have he's an unrestricted free agent in 2021.
Okay.
I don't think they're picking that option.
No, I wouldn't. Right. So yeah, that's my thing with the Bears because they got some talented wide receivers on that team. They got some a decent tight end. They got pass catching running backs, and I mean, what do you do? And I don't see Allen Robinson sticking around to be quite frankly.
You gotta do something to make him happy, right?
Right.
Yeah, so, what you got to hope is that Nick Foles gets some of that late season magic, honestly. That's your best hope at this point, I feel like. Because their defense is great. And Montgomery, a guy who I thought was looking slow for a while, last week he started to show he's making players miss. He's starting to gain extra yards after contact. He's a guy that I was starting to fade on, and now I'm getting a little excited about him. I'm going to watch him a little closer these next few weeks too.
Right. Well, Mike, the other thing you can watch every week are the family shows we have over at Big Play. Obviously, we're here every Tuesday night with you guys at 9:30, Working the Wire podcast, bringing you all of your fantasy football needs. Mm-hmm. On Mondays, we got the Yacht Club, Blitzed Football. I'm not sure if they're coming back or not. We haven't seen them around, but you got the Big Play Cleveland Reflog Show. Tuesdays, the guys that are on before us, our gentlemen over there in Maryland, Birdland BS, Fred and Scott, bringing you all things Ravens, Terps, Orioles, you name it, anything over in that area. They are talking about it. Obviously, we follow them up here at 9:30. Wednesdays, we got Padone My Take with Nick Padone, also talking all things Cleveland sports. Did you see who you had on as a guest tonight, Michael?
I did not. Who did you have?
Bob Vance from Vance Refrigeration.
Oh, Bob Vance for Refrigeration? All right.
That's right.
So where was Phyllis? I was hoping Phyllis would come in.
Phyllis will make a guest appearance, I'm sure, in the following weeks. But moving on, like Thursdays, we got In the Backfield, Peyton Hillis. Sunday, Voice of the Land, following up every Browns game. And Michael, we will be bringing back some gaming content here in the near future. We'll have details to follow. I already am doing a little bit of streaming. I know, Mike, you do a little bit of streaming. So if you guys want to give us each a follow over on our Twitch channels, same names as you see below. My Twitter at BigPlayBlake, Mike's Twitter at BigPlayBeatsBeats. I will actually be going live not too long after the show for a little Madden. What do you say, buddy?
Heck yeah, I'll check it out, man.
So gonna get into a little, gonna go get me a dub hopefully in SGL week 17. I think I'm starting backups. I already got home field locked. So
all right. Well, don't get hurt.
Yeah, no kidding. But guys, like I said, please check us out on Twitter. Use the hashtag AskWTW. We will be here the rest of the week and on Sunday to help out and help you win your weeknight matchups. With that said, good luck this week, and we will catch you guys